Hello, hello.
Woo! Hello.
Welcome, welcome.
Yeah, welcome to the WTAF We Talk About Film podcast. I'm Sarah.
I'm Justine.
And today we have on our show the amazing Jen Pogue. Woo, woo, woo.
You guys are amazing. You're amazing. Thanks for having me so much, Sarah and Justine.
We're so happy to have you.
You got a little bio over here. I'm going to read a little bio.
Oh, geez.
Okay, let's get into it. So Jen has acted and produced on many Canadian indie shorts and feature projects alongside the film production collective Film Coop Inc. Is it Film Coop or Film Co-op?
Film Coop.
Film Coop
Yeah.
Inc. And there we have it, folks. Their films have premiered at festivals including TIFF, Palm Springs, Raindance, and Whistler, and are currently streaming on Crave Canada, CBC Gem, Prime Video, Highball TV, Super Channel, and much more. Jen is the director of Industry for the Canadian Film Fest. Jen is the director of Industry for the Canadian Film Fest, co-host for the Women on Screen Out Loud podcast, and creator, showrunner, host of the new lifestyle digital series County Blooms for Bell 5 TV, of which she recently won Best Host of a Web Program or Series for the 2024 Canadian Screen Awards. And
woo! Go County Blooms!
And the show is currently in prep for its second season filming. Oh my goodness, I'm botching this, Jen. I'm so sorry. No, second season's coming up. We're all ready for it. We're all waiting. Jen is a key collaborator, patient advocate, mentor, and speaker for Rethink Breast Cancer and patient partner with Canadian Cancer Society, and spends her spare time dreaming up new film and garden projects at her lakeside home in Ontario alongside her husband and pup. Whew. Well,
that was a long one. Well done.
No, it's great. Well done. Thank you. You're being very kind there.
I love it.
That's fabulous. And you have your upcoming projects, so some plugs here. So County Bloom Season 1 on Bell 5. Season 2, as we said, stay tuned, coming up. She also helped out on a production for a short film called, can you say that?
Yeah, try to say it.
Okay.
Nosocomphilia. It's called Nosocomphilia.
I love that.
Directed by Michelle Kay. Yeah, and I wanted to plug that because it's a really cool short film that's been circulating the festivals right now, and it's like a body horror thriller piece of art. And I just think it's such a cool film. So I hope everyone can keep their eyes peeled for the longest titled short film ever, Nosocomphilia.
I love it.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Does that mean anything? Do you know?
Oh my gosh, I should be prepared for that. I think it's like a phobia of I don't want to botch this, but I think it's something like an obsession with hospitals and like fear of like not getting checked out enough or something like that.
Interesting.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
But I'll ask Michelle Kay to explain further. She should be talking about it. I just wanted it to be on people's radars. Yes.
Yeah, that's so cool.
Goodness.
Yeah.
And the final plug, you're going to camera very soon on a special short film created by Joe Vanicola and Maria Del Mar.
Yeah.
With the wonderful support from Rethink Breast Cancer called Pink Elephant.
Pink Elephant, a very special short film that we will be shooting this fall. It's been sort of long awaited. We've been working on it for a while and we're ready to go this fall. It's a really, really beautiful little tale about an exploration of two friends. One is pursuing top surgery and the other one's going through breast cancer. And it's just a really interesting, beautiful spotlight on two things that somewhat parallel but don't. I love that. I won't say parallel, but pairing. Yeah,
that's so interesting.
It explores, it explores just like identity in different, from two different perspectives. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Got a lot on your plate. I love it.
Yeah, there's some things, but it's all really great. Yeah, it's all really fun. So
yeah, very art centric. I love it.
I don't know if you can tell, I love short films. Love short films. If only you could pay the bills on passion points, because that's usually what happens with short films. But
I hear you on that one.
But they really do keep us going, and it's such a fun way to explore story and, meet new crew, a lot of emerging, just like give talent a platform that they might not usually have in mainstream film and TV that we see, So, anytime I get a chance to work on something cool, I try to jump at it. But that being said, it is definitely something, it's driven by passion. So you can only make so much space for it. But yeah.
It's very true. You have room for it.
Yeah.
You can only make so much, but it is the thing that kind of keeps us fueled, and there is so much freedom in a short film to play and experiment, and oftentimes there's so much less attached to it as far as responsibilities and expectations go, that you can explore, you can try something different, you can welcome people on set that you maybe haven't worked with as much, and really try and play and find that relationship. So the fact that you're like still going through there considering your bio, I think it's that tells you something about short film, doesn't it?
Well, you would know too, Justine. You're a beautiful short filmmaker. I know you too. So yeah,
it's such a.
And you've helped out on some shorts that we've produced at Film Crew too, right?
But that's where we've met. I think through. I think it was the Case of the Massy Bodice Ripping.
The Case of the Massy Bodice Ripping, also a very cool short, directed by Knox, written by Dana Fradkin.
Yes.
That was like 2017 that I think we made that short. But that was so cool. Yeah.
Oh yeah, and I think there was one or two web series that I think you're involved in that and then also a feature film. So I think there have been so many like different moments that I've seen you at work in different capacities and in different settings, and it's really cool.
Now we actually just get to sit down and talk instead of be frantic on set.
Yay!
Hi. Where's the craft table? Cool. Okay. Bye. Yeah, so like now we can talk. So thanks so much for having me today.
Oh yeah. You can follow Jen at JPO_and_co on Instagram, or at county_blooms. And also, you can check out her film Coop _Inc. on Instagram for the production company that does some amazing work with some amazing people. It's a great team at the helm of that, and jponco.com as well. Okay, shall we get into it?
Let's get into it.
Woo!
Oh yeah, we're just getting into it. We're already in it. We're in it. Yeah. I didn't realize you were still shouting me out. Shout out.
My God,
that's great.
So, but that's good. Yeah. I actually have a question that came up when we were getting into it.
I'm so sorry I ruined the flow. I just want everyone to know more about you.
No, thank you.
Everyone needs to know. Probably everyone does. I feel like everyone does know you, but if you don't, please get to know Jen Pogue. So you were talking about your love for short films, and we also know, and I think the listeners would probably be getting to know how much you do. How do you balance making your art a priority? Because you do a lot. So.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I don't know if I do it well. So I don't know how much advice I have, but it's just, I have a massive to-do list that stares at me on a whiteboard in front of my little corner that I, probably only work at every once in a while, but, and to-do lists are really it. And I get so much, goodness there's so much goodness that comes when I get to tick something off. So just staying organized, making deadlines for yourself, making check-in deadlines with your team, I find really, really helps to keep everyone, because I don't do any of these things alone. Like, I have wonderful teams that I work with, and if it is just me alone, it often will get pushed to the side, because I love showing up for people. I love it when they show up for me. We just keep each other encouraged all the time. So I'm a big collaborator. And I think that would be the secret sauce. It's just finding, working with people you love to work with and keeping yourselves engaged in everything. Yeah.
I'm curious about the process of finding a team. What does that look like for you? Do you have a team that you kind of go to? Do you have a pool of people that you work with? Do you have something solid, or are you constantly you mentioned bringing on emerging people? Like, how do you have a tight structure for your work group, for your collaborators?
Oh yeah, like when you're crewing up on a film or of some capacity. Yeah, I mean, I do work with a lot of the same people, like in terms of producers and creators, like Emily Andrews and Lauren Norden, who started Film Coop and brought me on a number of years ago. They're like my lifelong collaborators in many ways, but we are all working on very separate projects all the time as well. And like, but no matter what anyone's working on, we're always just a text away for each other. So that's why we call ourselves sort of a collective, as well as a production company, because even if there's sort of one person helming one project, like anytime one of us needs something, we'll just throw something out to the group, and usually one of us has some sort of lead to something, that's because we all three of us are involved in such different things, working with different people all the time. So it's all, relationships, like anything, always takes work, but I just feel so grateful to have those two always in my corner, and they've been amazing. And then bringing in new people, honestly, I'm always have my ear to the ground. I watch a lot of short films because I work for a film festival, so I'm pretty engaged in the community, and I'm always just checking to see like whose names are popping up, like whose name I've heard a couple of times. I'm in touch with a lot of filmmakers, and I'm like, hey, like, who's some awesome female cinematographers that we're starting to like, come up right now. Like, I'd love to meet them. I'd love to reach out. I do pay attention. Instagram is probably one of the only social media platforms that I really am fairly active on now, I'd say. And like, I mean, sometimes too much, but like, I do pay attention to see like who's popping up there. And I do think that people who are promoting their work, promoting the work of others, speaks a long way for the community as well. Like, again, it's a love-hate relationship with the social media, because I don't think you have to be on it to have a successful career. And that's like a whole road, but it definitely, when we all live and do things remotely, it helps.
Helps us find out
and find community, in ways. So boundaries around that are great. But yeah. Does that answer your question? I feel like
my gosh, rants. Absolutely.
Okay.
No.
Yeah.
That was a good answer, because it was like, because it answered the next question that I had coming up, which is like, so that's great. I am curious too, just to tack on to like the collaboration. Do you think that I'll say sort of reeling in people that like you've been able to work with consistently over the years, does that have a lot to do with your internal space, like how, like your relationship with yourself?
Oh, wait, say that again. Ask that again.
Okay, I'm really big on like mindset. So if
mindset,
and I feel like that's something that has come up with Justine and I, and pretty much all of our guests so far. And I feel like I see that in you, where like you've just, when I think of you, I always like, I see just like this cool community around. And I feel like that's a reflection of who you are and how, like, the work that you do with yourself.
Oh my gosh. Well, yeah. I mean, the community's done so much for me. So I will always give back whenever I get the opportunity to, like whenever anybody needs something, if it's within my wheelhouse, if it's within my capacity, if it's even just like referencing somebody else that they can reach out to, that's the least I can do. If I can't bring you a casserole, that's the least I can do. I've just always been I grew up in a big family. I've loved meeting people. I think that everybody brings something so interesting and unique to the party. You know what I mean? Like, and there's more fun in collaboration and groups, and I mean, you definitely have to manage things and keep yourself in check and try not to give too much of yourself sometimes, and try to, make sure that your voice is on par with the other one sometimes. And that can be a bit of an art form for sure. But I'd say the more the merrier. Bring it on.
The big family as
long
makes
as
sense.
everyone sticks to their commitments. That's
exactly.
Yeah.
Are we all carrying equal weight? Are we all? Yeah.
So
we all showing up.
Lauren McKinley, who's a very good friend of mine, said something recently.
I know Lauren.
That I keep, like, I told her I'm going to tattoo it to my face. Like, clarity is kindness. Clarity is kindness. So, like, if you have capacity for something and you want to be a part of it, like, great, sign on up. But if you don't have capacity, like, just then say, like, sorry, I got to step back, like, it's continuously practicing how to manage all that.
Yeah, clarity, communication, making sure that you're being honest with yourself and the people around you, because ultimately, like, the film industry is, being on a set, it's like a Jenga tower, like dominoes. Everything kind of affects each other in such a way, for better or for worse. So I like that. Clarity is kind. Ooh.
Yeah, okay. Right. I won't take credit for it. I like abide to that now. I'm like, that's right.
Thanks, Lauren.
Yeah.
That's funny.
I'm so curious. I'm wondering for you, because I know you do producing work, you do like film festival work, but you also act, and you have a life in front of the camera as well.
Yeah.
And to you, what do you find are the main differences for yourself between working behind and working in front of the camera? Like, as far as what draws you to being on camera, and what draws you to being behind?
Yeah,
telling
that's a
those
great
stories.
question. And I guess it's all, I started as an actor. I was an actor for many years. When I first moved to Toronto from acting school, essentially, I'm like, I'm going to live my dream of auditioning by day and waitressing by night. And
yep.
And I did that for a decade more. And, I had the opportunity to work on some amazing indie projects. And some of those people that I met at that time in my life are still some of my best friends today. So it was honestly because I got the opportunity to work on so many like indies, like indie horror features was a big one. Yep. And still is. I hope like it was so much fun. I don't like watching.
They're so
horrors,
fun.
But they're
yeah,
so
no,
fun
I don't
to
either.
make.
But they're so fun to be involved in.
So
yeah,
fun to make. Yeah,
and they're so like they always have these beautiful stories where like someone comes in with, what's it called, Skinamarink, where they had a $15,000 budget and then they sold to Shudder for $1 million. So there's like I feel like horror has that. There's this opportunity there where you can go and make even more art because it has a pretty fascinating turnaround.
Right?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, so good. You're taking me back to this, like, shout out Trisha Lee, who made this film Silent Retreat that I was in, where we spent like 2 weeks in a camp in the middle of nowhere, and it was actually terrifying. Yeah. And
little Blair Witch going on behind the scenes.
Yeah, pretty much. And Ryan M. Andrews, have you worked with Ryan? He's still Ryan M. Andrews. He's a film machine. He's always pumping out scripts and making something for nothing, which he's awesome. And one of my best buddies, Navin Ramaswaran, he made a lot of indies back then. Anyways, these people are still my best friends today. We've all come up together, which has been great. And I just got tired of waiting for people to give me a job. And I wanted to get more involved in the production side of things. And so became sort of self-taught producer, starting with a ton of shorts, and like now, working our way into more series work and feature films. And I'm losing the question because I was talking about indies again, but it was like, how do I balance the producing and the acting? So acting is my first love, and it's still something that, whenever I get the shot to do it, I'm there. I still audition pretty regularly. I do a lot of voice work still. I've now moved into hosting. It's sort of by default because I was like, well, I want to make this show and it needs a host. I guess it's going to be me. And so, but I do find with producing, and some people are pro stars at this, but I find producing and acting together to be very hard. So I don't often now I'll do like little bits here and there that need to get filled. But if there's something I'm producing on, I'm not super keen to take the reins on a leading role necessarily. And I'm okay with that now because I get so much fulfillment out of helping a production, grow from seed to making it a whole thing. Like that's, I find the two do balance each other, and definitely acting has taken a bit more of a backseat since I've been so busy in the producing world, but I love both of them. Yeah.
Oh,
you were primarily acting, and was producing sort of the first behind the camera role that you dove into, and that was with shorts?
I was a casting assistant for a long time at a place called Casting Link, which is now Casting Central, run by Louis Beaumander, but I was part of it for a long time. And I would work with Jenny Lewis and Sarah Kay at Lewis K Casting, and, you know, doing readers, and like I just wanted to get a flavor for what was happening behind those audition
It's so
rooms.
informative.
It's so informative.
Yeah.
And I just loved being part of that part of storytelling as well. We're just like seeing how things all came together.
Yeah.
So then, when I became an actor member, there was an opportunity to get matched up in this women's toolkit program that they were holding for their, they had a chapter at the time that was dedicated towards championing women in film and telling women's stories and things like that. And that's how I said, well, I just made a short film with my buddy Navin. And I was like, that was an amazing process to be a part of, seeing something, you know, from writing something to shooting it, to being a part of the whole post-production process, to like then learning about festivals and how to submit to festivals and things like that. That I then, I was like, yeah, I got to learn more about this. I got to keep making stuff. I just love that I have a part of that process, you know? And so then through that toolkit program, that's how I got hooked up with the Film Coop gals. And they sort of brought me into their fold. And we just spit out a ton of short films within a couple of years. Like we probably made like over a dozen, I'd say, with different collaborators. And then we were a little burnt out at that point.
Yeah, I was going to say, that's impressive. That's impressive.
Yeah, because it was all done for like very little money too, right? So you're just like pulling favors and working with awesome people wherever you can. Yeah. So that's kind of how I got started in producing.
Yeah, that's so cool. You never know where the journey's going to take you.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you really don't. And I'm a big yeser. So if I've got the time for it and it's something that excites me, then like it's a yes. So yeah.
So County Blooms, you brought, like, it's come up a couple times, and I know that you said the opportunity kind of presented itself as far as hosting goes. How did that project come to be? How did you jump into it? I'm so excited to hear more of this, because I know it's been like the accolades and just it's been taking off this, and
gone
I'm
pretty
so happy.
well. Thank you. Yeah. It so another part of my life story for the podcast here is I was, really heavily involved in film and doing a ton of side jobs as well, and just feeling pretty burnt out, and I needed a break, and I was really craving doing something with my hands. And this was probably about 10 years ago. Instagram had just become a thing. I don't work for Instagram. I don't know why I'm talking about it so much. I'm really not that obsessed with it. But anyways,
not
it was
sponsored.
Yeah, but at the time, it I don't know. I latched, instead of like posting pictures of my food like everybody was doing when it first started, I latched on to floral design. Like I was so enamored by people putting these beautiful pieces together and installation pieces and I thought, I came into like a little bit of extra money, which is another story, at a casino with my husband's family. And I took that as a sign to jump on this course that I had been wanting to take for a little while. And so I took a floral design course for a couple of weeks. And then out of that, I got a job at a very popular wedding and events company in Toronto. And I spent a year in flowers, and it was awesome. But I inevitably ended up back up in film, because if you're a true filmer, it always lures you back, And so I still continued to do sort of floral design on the side, but it was a really niche thing. Like I didn't know anybody else in the industry that was kind of doing that. And people were always talking to me about it. And they were always like saying, oh, what a dream job. Like, how do you get started in that? And I said, actually, like I've learned a lot over the last year or so. Much like anything, there really isn't one way to get started in florals. But wouldn't it be cool to like spotlight a whole bunch of people that are doing their dream businesses, getting started in it in this cool way, and like have their own methods and their own resources, and like just spotlight a bunch of them and hopefully, get people excited and inspired to maybe follow their dreams too, whatever that looks like to them. So that's how County Blooms came to be. So yeah, I pitched it to Bell 5 TV1. I had the opportunity. I was working in a production office at the time as a production coordinator, and my producer, Avi Fettergreen, was kind of, he had made friends with somebody at Bell 5 and like was tossing around ideas of things we could pitch to them. And then I brought up County Blooms and he said, write that pitch, write it right now. And then I did. And then I got a meeting with them through Avi. Thank you, Avi. And yeah, I got greenlit. So.
And when was that? When did you pitch it?
So that's a whole story too. But I pitched it in.
Always is.
Always is, right? I pitched it to them throughout. It went through a couple of incarnations, but throughout 2020. So throughout sort of the beginning of the pandemic. Wow. And then it got greenlit.
Yeah.
Which was very exciting because I was so, just the thought of having my own show that I got to create from the beginning was with a broadcaster attached to it and like some great support is so cool. And so, they greenlit it. I was so grateful. And then like 4 days after that, I got a pretty gnarly health diagnosis.
My goodness.
So that was a bummer. And like, right. And then I went to them at Bell 5 and I was like, hey guys, like this thing is happening and I don't really know what's going to happen this year, but I know I need to take time off of everything so that I can, because I just don't know what's going to happen. And so they were so understanding and wonderful. And they basically said this, the support is set aside for you for whenever you feel ready. Maybe you can come back to it and like, whenever it feels right for you, or just know that we're with you and we'll let you know, or you let us know and we'll be back. So they were wonderful. So, I mean, that's a,
that's wow. They loved you. They loved the idea. They wanted to support you and they were there for you. And that's such a.
It was so sweet.
Yeah.
And I was so devastated, I'd say, for many reasons, but really devastated because I was so excited about this show that I'd worked so hard on for a year, like more than a year leading up to it.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, thanks to them. It was great. And then it was sort of this, beautiful little tiny golden egg that was with me the whole time when I was going through a really hard time in my first year of treatment, just being like, if things turn out okay, like maybe I'll still get to make that show. And like,
the glimmer of hope.
It was a glimmer of hope. It really was. So I'm so grateful to them for many reasons. And I went back to them about a year later and I was like, I think I'm feeling like things are still in a bit of a precarious place, but I'm feeling like, I think I'll be okay to do this year if you believe in me. And they're like, you can take it step by step. Like, here's, we'll help you with the first part. We'll have a check-in. We'll help you with the second part. And like, so it was great. So I literally I created it all throughout my treatments for I don't even know if I said it out loud here, for metastatic breast cancer. I was diagnosed with stage 4 metastatic breast cancer out of nowhere. And then, embarked upon a 2-year clinical trial, which is pretty wild.
Wow.
And in my last year of that trial, my second year of that trial, that's when I picked the project back up again. And it really became the distraction I had needed.
Right.
As well as sort of a healing tool to immerse myself in a world that brought me a lot of joy. And I just think that plants and flowers and, nature is just so healing in itself. It was just, couldn't have been a more perfect project for me.
Oh my goodness.
I created it throughout that last year of treatment. And then it just happened to line up that the day I was told that I got to finish chemotherapy, we shot it the following week. We had been
goodness.
The
timing on this whole journey is so incredible.
And then, I think it was a year. So I finished chemotherapy, but then I stayed on immunotherapy for another year after that, which was fine. I wasn't really having any side effects from immunotherapy. I was feeling pretty good. And then the day I finished immunotherapy, County Blooms came out. And like, I didn't plan any of this. Yeah, it was really wild.
Jen needs to write a book. This is a whole thing. Wow.
I'm kind of working on it. I'm working on it piece by piece because I'm like, this story is so wild. And like, it's just not, you can't even make this stuff up.
No.
Like the 2 years that I had in this clinical trial while also making a show, while also not knowing if I was going to live or die. Like it was just, it was a pretty intense. It's an intense thing. Yeah.
But I can see like the, you know, I'm on the, well, we're on the other side now and you're on the other side now. But like, just even zooming out, like I remember seeing your diagnosis and seeing updates and everything. But now looking at it and learning more details of like what was going on behind the scenes, I'm like, I see how everything was threaded together perfectly for you. Like you had this financial support that came in right before this all happened. And had that not happened, it probably would have been a little bit heavier. It would have been harder to wrap your head around making the show and all these other things. And then it's like, because you had the show already in the wheelhouse, that gave you an action piece to, you know, like look forward to and to pour your heart in, which probably helped, you know, keep your cells happy and healing. And oh my goodness, that's just so cool.
I love the way you put that together. That's going in the book. That's going in the book. Yeah.
Coming out 2026.
Yeah. So, and to as much of your comfort as you're willing to share, like, do you want to walk us through that process of like what happened when you received that diagnosis?
Oh God, yeah. I honestly hardly remember the first couple months of that because it was such a blow. I was in the prime of my life. I was working full time in a production office at the time. I was very busy. I had just gotten this show greenlit. My family was in a really great place. I was pretty newly married to Warren, who's been my partner for ages, but we were like so happy to finally be married and I don't know, just like starting a new chapter of our relationship in a way. And then just whoa. And I'll tell everybody out there, the reason I was diagnosed at such a late stage is because I had found a little lump in my left breast about 8 months prior, but I had been turned away by multiple doctors because I was told it was likely something hormonal. That there was no way it could be cancer because I was 36 at the time, 36 when I found the lump, 37 by the time I was diagnosed. And and I had no family history of breast cancer at all. So I was turned away twice when I went to go get it checked up. And then boom, 8 months later, when I'm like, that thing that you said is supposed to go away, like it's getting pretty big now. And then I had to advocate for myself to get further imaging, which finally led to a biopsy. And the whole time they were like, we're just going to rule out cancer. Like, we're just going to rule it out. And I'm like, okay, like hurry up and like someone get rid of this thing. Cause this is not normal for my body. I know my body and I don't have growing lumps in it very often.
Right.
And finally I did get a diagnosis, but at that point in time, it had already spread to a spot on my sternum and into my lungs. And I was essentially told I had probably about a 2-year lifeline left. At that point in stage 4 metastatic breast cancer, it's not considered curable anymore. You're immediately put into sort of a palliative treatment. It sucked.
Oh my goodness.
Nervous laughter. It was terrible.
Nervous. Yeah.
But by all the angels and, you know, everybody that guides me, I was so far gone right off the bat, there's a ton of hoops and a lot of really confusing information, but I immediately qualified for a clinical trial at Princess Margaret Hospital where I was put into very good care and given a shot at this cutting edge sort of immunotherapy that just happened to agree with me very well. And it started working very well. And by the time I had started treatment, my lump was about 13 centimeters. So like basically the size of, you know, most of my breast, which was pretty intense. And after my first dose of treatment there, which was chemo and immunotherapy, it shrunk almost 50%. So,
oh, wow.
It just started working really well. This is also like the height of the pandemic. Like everybody's still locked away, you know, like
So could Warren couldn't even visit you at the hospital or
he couldn't come with me to anything. Yeah. I was there by myself throughout all of it, throughout getting the diagnosis at Princess Margaret, signing the paperwork for this clinical trial, which is a whole thing. My first day of chemo was so scary.
No kidding.
So it was really hard to do it. by myself, but we did it. And, you know, there was some really great support systems put into place. I became involved with a bunch of support groups. I met everybody from Rethink Breast Cancer, who's incredible. I started to finally, and again, I don't work for Instagram, but through Instagram and through community, I started digging in and finding, because all I could find when I was first diagnosed was just really bad stories, like terrible stories of, you know, nothing good ever coming from this. And as I dug through Instagram, I started finding more and more people living with metastatic breast cancer that were living really well, and we're still working, and we're still having families, and we're on treatments, because most of the time with the case of MBC is you will be on some form of treatment for the rest of your life. Mm-hmm. And I had to really rewire my brain to be like, that you can still live that way. Like, this isn't the end. This isn't me just staring at a wall, waiting to die. It took a while to pull myself out of that, because that's all I saw. That's all that was projected to me, until I finally met some of these incredible others, mostly through social media. And it just meant so much to me to see them living whole lives. And I was like, okay, well, great. Well, if they can do that, then I can do that too. And so that's kind of when I picked the show back up and started selecting some of my favorite things again, you know, and like just being like, okay, I can keep living.
What a testament. Sorry.
No, please.
I was just going to say, what a testament to your strength. Yeah. No, but you deserve it.
Thanks. But that's why it became important to me too, to start, because it was pretty devastating and horrible to talk about. And I didn't, it's everybody has their own ways of, you know, dealing with, you know, when death comes into play, and when, you know, so it was really hard to talk about at first, but then it became really important to me that I was going to be the story that I knew I needed to see. And so I started living life a little louder with cancer, because of all them. Yeah. So, yeah. And so anyways, the very long story short is that I finished the 2-year trial, and I've been off treatment and in remission for over a year now. And
Goodness.
It's a pretty amazing thing to hear of somebody with MBC that gets to be treatment free. And it might not be forever for me, but I also feel very great that I know that there's so much evolving science and so many treatments out there, in case the cancer does wake up again. Right. And we'll just like shove it back down. Yeah. So so that's that whole story.
Woo. Right.
Yeah.
I wonder, so going into, I mean, you were living the life you were leading. You said you're at the height, you're at your, you know, this height of success for yourself, and in this place that you felt really, really happy. And then this occurred, and you had to really deal with that and manage that and live that reality. Coming out of that in the space that you're in now, have you noticed that you are approaching things differently? Are you doing anything differently for yourself now that I guess that how did the dynamic shift for yourself?
Huge. I feel like my outlook on life is like every day I just wake up feeling so lucky. You know, and like the reality part of it is this is a really hard space to live in, but like ultimately, like I feel like I've been given more time, and I've gotten back to a place of what my therapist calls denial, which is where I don't think about death and dying every day anymore. And like, yes, the reality is we're all going to die, but it's really hard when you're given timelines, you know, to pull yourself out of that. But now I wake up, and even on a bad day, like my bike tire popped recently. And I remember joking to myself when I had first started treatment, like, if only the worst thing that could happen to me today is for like my tire to pop or something, that would be such a blessing. And then it did happen a year later when I was feeling and I was just like, oh my God, this is the worst thing today. That's amazing.
Oh my God. Have you heard Tig Notaro's stand-up, the one that kind of put her on the map? Have you heard that one?
I watched her doc. There was a doc about her and that, right? Or them, them and that. It's really powerful. Because Tig just like went on stage that night, the night that they found out that they had cancer.
Oh. Yeah. Yeah. So, and I'm sorry, I didn't realize that Tig is now identifying. So my mistake. I didn't.
I don't know
that.
either. Actually,
Oh.
Maybe I'm assuming that. I'm not sure. We'll just go with that. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, no. And it's ironic because what's his name? It was a comedian that we no longer like.
Yeah.
an inappropriate comedian.
Which
was,
one? Yeah.
Louis C.K. Louis C.K. It was a show that he was putting on, and he actually put it on his website. But Ed Helms intros her, and she kind of said backstage to Tig said backstage to Ed Helms, my next guest, like she said, I don't think I can go on, but I'm just gonna do this. Like I just found out a week ago I have breast cancer. She had just recovered from C. diff. Her mom had passed away. Like she had this whole and so she gets on stage and she starts with, "Hello, good evening. I have cancer. How are you?" And the whole it's just 45 minutes of truth, I think, or 30 minutes of truth. And it's so good. It's definitely worth digging up.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. So powerful. Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel lucky, and I feel like my radar for what I like to do and what I don't like to do is a lot stronger than it ever used to be. Like this is the funny thing about County Blooms and why it's doing so well. It is one of the first projects where it literally was just something that I thought would be fun and I wanted to try it, and not for any sort of career advancement necessarily. Because at the time I'm like, this might be my last project, and what possibly in case if I get sicker or if the worst happens. So how do I really want to spend my last project? What do I want to say?
Right.
And so I really got to, this show is really light, and we interview beautiful, lovely humans who had no idea what was going on with me at the time.
That's probably refreshing.
It wasn't about that, but I got to find little moments through, alongside my story producer, Michelle Jadaruski, who's a very dear friend. She's she really helped me dig deep. Jen, what themes are we really talking about? What do you really want to acknowledge right now? And it became a big part of just don't do something because the show, ultimately the theme of the show is don't go against the grain if it doesn't feel like it's authentic to you. If there's something that you want to do and you want to explore, and even if it doesn't make sense, even if you're not going to make any money from it, even if it's not going to get you that promotion, just go for it, because you never know what could happen. And that's what I did with County Blooms, which eventually just recently led me to a Canadian Screen Award, which I'm still spiraling about, because I'm that's so funny. It's the first time I made something honestly just for me, and it's the one that's kind of
the one that's
So, yeah.
No, I was gonna say that too, that it's not only did you make it, not only did you have to be the strongest you've ever been in your life, but now it's doing well. It's all you're getting awards, and it's beautiful.
Yeah. Thanks.
I love this idea. Well, I think it was really important that you mentioned this idea of authenticity in the work that you do, because a lot of us, and I see this in our community all around, we have to make a lot of moves for economic reasons, or because we feel pressured to hit the next milestone. There's always a milestone in film. At least that's kind of what's marketed to us when we're starting out, when we're in school. There's an idea of what success looks like and what personal success looks like and how you appear to others. It is a very visible medium. That is, and you talk about social media, there's a lot of forward-facing, public-facing work that we have to do. But the idea of bringing it back to this place of authenticity, I think is such an important thing for all of us. And too many of us push it to kick the ball down the line and say, okay, eventually I'll reevaluate things. I'm on a roll right now. And then you kind of forget those stories that really make you feel, those projects that really make you excited, those things that really allow you to play. So I appreciate that you brought that up, because that's something for me that I've struggled with. And last year was a huge year of shifting my desires and my wants, and knowing who I am and how I wanted to, navigate playing in film. And I decided I wanted to play in it. I didn't want to participate in it in that way necessarily, of this. Yeah, I don't even know where I'm going with that. Last year was great. This year, though, I'm making an active choice to kind of find something that makes me excited.
Yeah.
It's tough, and
something that lights that like little gas fire inside of you, just like a spark. Just like that's if when you feel the spark, follow the spark.
Right.
Yeah. It's so easy not to, and it's I've gone through long periods of my life where there wasn't a spark, but it felt like I was doing what I was supposed to be doing. Yeah, that.
Oh, the supposed to be. I
was a big old supposed to, should be, for a very long time. So yeah, that's what County Blooms reminds me of all the time. It's just like, yeah, because even exploring in floral design 10 years ago didn't make sense for me. It was literally just, I was like, I just feel really drawn to this. I just want to give it a shot for a little bit because I feel so drawn to it for no other reason than I just love beautiful photos of flowers and want to know how they got put together. And then 10 years later, it turned into the show that I had always imagined making, And like, I was told in theater school, I don't know about either of you, but I was told never have a backup.
That's David Mamet says that very, very loudly in a chapter of his book.
Because I respect David Mamet, but I think that's bullshit. Because I think that us pursuing anything that gives us a spark, I think us like knowing about other industries and other people will just give us that much more, more dynamics in being an artist and knowing how to create and finding other characters to pull or like,
for sure.
Yeah.
Well, you never know where that one like odd job you had, how that feeds into maybe a role you need to have on set or, just like knowledge or a character you want to write, like just every little odd job you take or, like big side tangent you go on ends up evolving into your path. Yeah.
Exactly.
And sorry, Sarah.
No, go ahead, Justine. No.
Oh, yeah. So talking about, taking these paths and kind of moving with things, what drew you to the Canadian Film Festival? Like how did you get to this place of like, you've been in front of the camera, behind the camera, and working on projects in all these capacities. And then what drove you to work in the film festival sphere? Because that is a whole different ball game. Yeah.
Honestly, just first of all, my husband Warren Sonoda, who's a wonderful filmmaker, a really good guy in the community, and a wonderful partner. He was working with Bern Euler at the time on the Canadian Film Fest, and it was essentially just the two of them. And this was right when we first started dating. And he said, "Come on out to the festival." And then I think that night I ended up like also working the box office and also like helping, set up for an after party that was at one of their apartments and, collecting tickets anyways, I just like ended up helping out so much.
I love this. He tricked you into working.
Yeah, they tricked me into working. They're like, come to the festival, but also we need your help because it was just the two of them really running everything. But just despite all of that, I thought the energy at the festival was incredible. And it was one of the only hubs at the time for indie filmmakers to it's basically the Canadian Film Fest was created as an alternative to TIFF, sort of like Slam Dance to Sundance. Like it was like, cool, we have this incredible Toronto International Film Festival that happens but like also they accept like very few Toronto Canadian talent, essentially. Right. We need a festival that really celebrates our homegrown talent. So that's how the Canadian Film Fest came to play. And so when I started getting involved in helping out, I was just, the energy was there. The people were there. The connections were there. It was one of the only times where I had been in sort of a schmoozy environment, but it didn't feel schmoozy. It just felt fun. And it felt like we were all there to celebrate each other. And so that's very much the vibe that we continue to carry through with Canadian Film Fest. So I just never left. I've been working with them for almost a decade now too. And my roles have continued to grow as I create them for myself. At the festival. So I love, and a big shout out to Ashley Rains, who's now also the festival director at Canadian Film Fest. And Bern Euler is still the executive director there. And we're just a small but mighty team that tries to give platform to as much Canadian talent as we can. And I love meeting everybody. I love putting together my role specifically is putting together panels and workshops. And as a filmmaker myself, I just I'm like, what would I need to learn right now? What's hot in the industry right now? What do I think we should have a conversation around? And so that's how we end up usually building the industry series, which is why I feel it's very relevant every year, because it's actually being put together by filmmakers for filmmakers.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh.
Come on out, everybody!
That's
March,
Right? Yeah. If you haven't submitted, if you haven't checked it out, if you haven't come watch some films.
Submissions open for filmmakers starting September 9th this year. So you can submit your shorts and your features, and I believe they are going to be starting. I don't program the film, so you can send me muffins, but it won't do you any good. Because I would just accept everybody. I'm too. I'm like, it's hard making a film. Good for you. Yeah. You get in the festival, and you get in the festival. No, we have a wonderful team of very experienced filmmakers who are total cinephiles and take their jobs very seriously. And so that's the Canadian Film Fest. So submissions open in September, and the festival happens in March, and it's a lot of fun. And it's a great way to meet other filmmakers, and a lot of collaborations and connections were made this past year. I know people are already working on films together, so good place to meet your people.
Yeah, we love that.
I've been to a couple screenings of Film Fest. A few friends have had
great
projects in there, and it's always such a nice time. There's always such a good vibe. Everyone is so supportive. It feels like you're sitting there with these peers, and everyone cares. Everyone wants to be there. Everyone cares about the project and people who participate in. So that's such an important thing. And I love that you speak to this idea of community and supporting Canadian film, and people are right there and they see that. So that's huge.
Yeah. It's
really
cool.
We're not schmoozy over here.
We get into it. We talk about your insides.
Yeah.
How are your insides? Yeah. Give me the real story behind the story. And then I trauma dump all over you. But thank you so much for a safe space. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I feel like if we kept on this call, there would be all the trauma being dumped.
Yeah.
I'm curious, and I feel like we probably know the answer to this, but do you have any favorite projects that you've worked on?
Oh my gosh. I love them all. For many different reasons. I love County Blooms, obviously. And I just love how colorful and fun and friendly it is. I made a movie with my husband Warren and the Film Coop team in 2017. It was one of my first features that I'd helped on. It's called Things I Do for Money. And that's Warren's story that he's always wanted to tell. Essentially, it's a love letter to his two brothers. And it was, I can't say it was my favorite to make because it was insane. We had very little money. We did have a lot of community support. This is when your friends show up for you, when you I always say to emerging filmmakers, I'm like, if you're making a passion project, you only really get one or two shots where everyone's going to rally for you and help you get that thing. So make sure that this is the project, and for Warren, this was his project. So we had some great community and friend and family support, but very little money. And he wrote the most ambitious script, which was it had over 30 speaking roles, over 100 extras, over 35 locations, all shot in 12 days. And that was hard with a lot of fancy cars and shootouts. And it was an action. There was a lot of, it was really hard to make, but it was one of my favorites because I learned so much. We worked with such an amazing crew. They were all emerging filmmakers from Hamilton who are all way too busy to take our calls now because Hamilton's such a thriving film community now. But in 2017, it was still kind of new. So we just met incredible talent there. And the community was so welcoming to us. We were shooting a scene on a sidewalk. And, a lot of the times in Toronto, if you're kind of guerrilla style shooting, businesses get mad at you. But this one lady came out and she was like, hey, and we're like, oh, so sorry. We'll be really fast. And she's like, no. I made you cookies. It was a bakery. Yeah. And that was kind of the vibe. Like we literally made the impossible happen because we had such a cool, team of people, and the city of Hamilton was so supportive in general.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah. And it's also the film that like all our parents are in. My mom plays a role. Warren's parents play a role in this bingo scene. Emily Andrews, the co-producer, her mom's in it too. Like we literally brought everybody we know into
the whole
the
community.
And every time we watch it, we're just laughing and think to ourselves, how did we do that? So yeah.
Oh my God. I would love to see this. Yeah.
I think it was on Crave. It might still be on Crave.
Oh, that's incredible. Okay.
Things I Do for Money.
I Do for Money.
It's a total thriller action film written around two Japanese cello playing brothers who composed the original music and score, and they're very
that's
talented.
cool.
That's wild.
All Hamilton, mostly all Hamilton talent as well. So yeah, it's fun.
That's
the one
so
that comes to mind, but I've done some cool stuff. Yeah.
And you survived making a feature with your husband, or then boyfriend, right?
Then boyfriend. That's
a good testament.
That was the testament. It was not easy, I'll tell you. And definitely a lesson learned in that was if you're in charge of the scenes and you're ever you're in charge of lunch, essentially, like make sure lunch is on time or else you get in a lot of trouble. Yeah. He still to this day brings it up all the time. He's like, oh, what, Jen, you gonna call the caterers in late again? Like he was so mad that one day that lunch was late.
Oh my gosh. Especially when you're phoning in those favors, it's like the least, I feel that, but it's also like, that's a lot of stress when your mind is probably in 800 places. That's so funny.
Wild.
That's so wild. That's just killing the dream. I've always like fantasized it as like, if I collaborated with this partners, who knows who it may be one day, and we're both on set. It's gonna be beautiful. It's like, no. There's a reality.
There was
to it.
No romance, zero romance. It was all business.
Yeah.
Business is not that sexy.
No.
I did a short, Justine, with someone that that I dated. And this is in 2018 when we met. The person that he's in a photo in one of the
yes,
movies.
I know exactly who. And we'll send you a photo after, Jen.
It was his movie. I was so excited. It was my first time producing a short, and that was a hard no for me. Right? You really see, like, if someone can't celebrate how hard you're working.
Yeah.
Then it's like, oh, okay, you're not seeing me right now. How's it going to be when problems come up in the future? So, good testament.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, fabulous. Okay, well, I mean, I'm excited to hear that, and also now a little sobered up from the fantasy.
Next time you want to date someone, Justine, we'll just make a short. All of us will make a short together.
Yeah, I've had showmances as an actor. Yeah, like I feel like that's a different thing sometimes. Yeah, like you can really get into it as an actor. It's like really sweet. Right. But when you're in production, you're in the trenches. It's like the colors come out. Yeah, and the claws. Yeah.
Well, now we know how to trigger you, Jen. The catering. Yeah. Where's the catering?
Where's the catering? I'm like, oh my god. I was learning how to read Army Time. So
Sarah, I messed up a train schedule the other day because I couldn't read Army Time, and Sarah missed the train. So I hear you.
Oh my gosh.
She's like 13, 17. That's 2, 17.
Nope.
That
was not.
See, I know now. Yeah, I studied it afterwards. I'm like, I can. Yeah.
Like I'm not gonna make this mistake again. Oh my god.
Oh, that's so funny. And the unions, they need the military time, so.
Yeah, it's really complicated. Do you want to hear a funny story from
Yes.
For many? Okay, there's so many funny stories, but this one just came up the other day, and it's so this was also a lesson learned. There was a scene, and I'm going to use expletives here, so pardon me, but there was a scene in the film where it's like, fuck you, no, fuck you, no, fuck you, no, fuck your mother, no, fuck you, and anyways, this was happening, this really high intense scene where there's a shootout following after this massive fight of lots of swearing, and we were shooting it in Hamilton outside of this little convenience store. And across the street from that convenience store was a Chinese Christian church. And we were shooting this on a Sunday morning. And somehow, and this lady came running out of the church saying like, stop.
Oh no.
You're mine. And we found out afterwards and they were like, what? What did she say? No, okay. Well, sorry, we'll be quieter, but like we got to shoot again. And they shot the scene again. Anyways, and she's like, stop. So what had happened was somehow the lav mics on the actors got connected to the church, like microphones and was being projected across the service of the church. So that's all they were hearing was like,
Oh
no. Yeah. And so
no. It's a nightmare.
Oh my God.
So yeah.
I never would have in my wildest dreams thought I could sound could connect.
I have no idea still to this day how
That's
it
the
ended
channels,
up happening,
I
but
guess.
always, always make sure that you're all on the channel you're supposed to be on.
Oh no.
Or you
wow.
might, some kids got some different kinds of
Oh, no. You might have a cameo at a mass. Who knows?
Yes.
Who knows? That's
Different kind of sermon today.
Yeah.
Different kind of sermon today.
Oh no.
Isn't that wild?
Oh my
That's
God.
that leads us right into our segments actually, which is perfect because that fits in with a hot lunch horror story.
Yeah.
That's so funny. That's great.
Oh yeah. Hot lunch horror. Okay. Well, I told you about my lunch horror story.
You did.
It was just forgetting to tell the caterer what time to make lunch ready for. That's not really that exciting, but it is in production.
Yeah.
And lunch is honestly so stressful as a producer or anyone on like the producing team, anyone like location, like anyone on that side just to get set up, especially if you had some days sounds like 100+ people. So it's like, you know, you need to feed those mouths. Otherwise everyone's going to be sour.
Exactly. Yeah, it's wild. I always say that if I do my job right as a producer, which is putting, people into the roles that they are, so great at, then ideally, like I step back, I let everybody do their thing, and I'm mostly in charge of lunch. Like just making sure that everybody's fueled and so that they can keep doing their thing.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh
I failed
gosh.
that day.
Oh no.
At least it was one day out of 12.
It was.
The last feature I was on the producing team, it was like almost every day the caterers were having issues because they were getting backlogged with post-strike jobs. So they were overwhelmed, which is, we understood, but it was also like, okay, so we got all our food one day, but no cutlery. And then the next day it was 45 minutes late. And it was just like every day there was a new issue. And I was like, oh my gosh, I just want to be able to feed crew on time. Like that's all I want.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Big time. Ah.
Yeah.
So you want a hot lunch horror story?
If you've got another one, yeah. That was a funny one though.
Yeah.
That was a good one. I was just I spoke to a George Brown class about like indie producing pretty recently. And I was talking about like, what was it? I was talking about like what a glamorous life of film looks like as an indie producer. And I recalled this short film that we made called Best Friends Forever, BFF, which was another horror short film. And I, as the producer, they couldn't find anyone that was willing to sit in the makeup chair long enough to play a zombie that had to have like a whole 8-hour like special effects makeup situation happening. And that day I was mostly just assisting Emily and Laura, who were taking the lead on that project. Mm-hmm. And they said, Jen, like, would you want to be the zombie? And I was like, well, sitting in a makeup chair sounds better than like,
running around putting out fires.
Like just like, or like getting coffees for everybody and like whatever. So like, sure, I'll be the zombie. And it was funny. Yeah. I think I was playing like a 13-year-old zombie girl. And I was like, guys, I'm 30. And they're like, it's okay. Like you're wearing a ton of makeup. It doesn't matter. And I'm like, all right, let's go for it. So anyways, I played the zombie, but I was also still producing and like helping out behind the scenes. Dress and like the makeup on this character was insane. Like so it was funny. So I ended up having to go on a run because if you're an indie producer, you know that you always need fog for the fog machine. Like you always need a fog machine for everything, especially
They
if it's an
always
indie
want a
horror.
fog. Yeah.
They always want the fog machine or dry ice, but honestly, the fog machine does the same aesthetic. So anyways, we run out of fog machine fluid, and I think I went to go pick some up from Rodrigo Fernandez's school.
Fog and lasers.
Rod's like the fog guy. If anyone needs fog, Rod always has fog. He's got a couple machines. He's always got. So anyways, I think I was on my way to go pick up either the fog machine or some fog fluid, dressed as a monster. In April, when suddenly there was this insane like blizzard that happened, and
no.
I was on the highway, just like white knuckling it, and my windshield wiper fell off, and I was just like,
no,
why did I sign up to do this? Like, why am I doing this? But also, it's just such a funny picture, and it was all real.
Yeah, I need photographic evidence of this.
I'll send you photos of me as the zombie. I was terrifying. It was, but like also like going to do errands as a zombie because I couldn't get out of the makeup because the makeup took so long to put on. So it was just so funny.
That's like super producer. That's like a superpower right there. Oh my
You just end up wearing all the hats. You just do. Yeah.
Yep.
I don't know if
amazing.
That's like more of like an actual like meta horror because I was in a horror. Yeah.
I love
No,
it.
it's a fun video. It's like, honestly, if you're thinking of getting into producing, you just never know what's going to happen.
No.
And it's
you
usually
can
something
plan
like that.
as much as you want, but you need to just be ready for anything to happen.
Yeah.
Like, literally anything to happen. Yeah. Oh gosh, we've had a lot of horror stories. I can't recall anymore, but like,
No, that's good. That's perfect.
Flood it. We're making the trauma flood right back.
Yeah.
Exactly.
We're just hitting every single chord here.
Yeah, pretty much.
Pretty much.
There we go.
We also have a question. This is kind of like question/advice. This is from an audience member submitted.
Oh, wow.
So audience, like the audience, we are our friends
and family for now.
Right now, we're
love
harassing
it.
them individually.
I love it.
So I think this applies to you both as an actor and as a producer.
Okay.
So have you ever had an actor, or have you ever been in a situation where you change your mind about playing out an intimate scene while you're shooting the scene? And how do you deal with these kinds of sensitive issues on set when there are no intimacy coordinators, maybe for financial reasons or whatever? But I can see you maybe having an answer from both sides of the lens, because this is something that does come up, and we are asked a lot often when we're playing in films on a low budget with an exhausted crew, and so what that's from Gina, by the way.
Gina,
nice question
what a
from
great
Gina.
question. Oh wow. I have experienced it on both sides, I'd say. Less intimacy coordinators, and that this is becoming more of that there is more of them, that this is becoming more of the bar now, that to use them and to engage them, because they are such incredible, what an important role that we've never had before. And I've definitely, I've definitely been pushed into doing things that I wasn't necessarily comfortable with as an actor, for sure. But I just never had the opportunity or knew that I, could say no, because especially at the time, when you just want, you can be replaced at any point in time, and you're new to the industry and you might not know how things work. Like, you just kind of go with it. And
you don't want to be difficult.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I remember, so without going into too much detail, because this was so long ago, on a feature film that I was playing a lead in, back in the day, I remember there was a scene where they wanted me to take my top off. And I was really not comfortable with that. With the actor that was involved, with the people that were involved. And I was pretty adamant, and I ended up, and I had an agent at the time who wasn't really an agent. Wasn't really looking out for me. But I remember at the time, I think I went to the library or something like that, and I learned for myself what a nudity rider was. And I made sure I put that in place. And I said, I will take my top off, but you won't show anything. And I'm going to wear cover-ups, and I'm going to like you can, what do you call it? We can assume that I'm naked, but I'm not actually going to be showing anything, and I don't want anything to be shown on screen. And so
good for you.
Yeah. So that was my first sort of taste of that as a performer. And I'd say today as a producer, that's one thing that we always put into place now. Like even as a production coordinator, I've worked on movies of the week where like, you know, it's pretty PG, but the role of an intimacy coordinator and a producer now is for everybody to sit down before these acts happen and actually plan and talk out exactly what it's going to be beforehand, so that everybody just comes to the table with, you know, the clarity is kindness rule, knowing what the expectations are and knowing that we're not going to be pushing any further than what we've already discussed and planned. Right. So that's what I try to make sure is always in place now. Like and Actora is really great about that too. Like when you're putting together sort of your riders for actors, just like being very clear and communicative about what's expected. Yeah. Before even going to camera. Right. And then I think everybody gets to show up a little more confident, you know?
Yeah. I appreciate that you went and educated yourself, but I'm sorry that it had to get to a point where you felt so uncomfortable, you didn't know what to do, and you had to figure out a way of having something very formal, you know, and legitimate to be able to feel confident in doing that. But I think that a lot of us, that's the route we have to go. So the fact that now as a producer, you've experienced that and you've seen that for yourself and you felt those feelings that you're like, okay, how do I make other people not even feel like they have to be put in that corner, put in that position? So, okay.
Yeah.
Love it.
And I think, it's hard to negotiate that for yourself too. You know what I mean? And that's why bless the intimacy coordinator, who's now the sort of in between the production and the actor, to kind of be that. But doing it myself, I was like,
Yeah.
Especially when you had an agent, but it was like, you know, that's why having a good agent really matters, that they advocate for you.
Absolutely. Yeah. What a cool question, though. Thanks for letting me reflect on that for a hot second, too. Yeah.
Thanks, Gina.
Thanks, Gina.
And then our final segment today is Prompts from a Hat. So in this one, we have, you know, audience members, friends and family give us a location, object, and name, character name. And then you can fill in the genre as a blank.
Oh,
so,
okay.
Justine, do you want to read out the location?
Absolutely. So the location, just to fuel your creative fire, everyone who's listening, give you some ideas for something, maybe you want to write your own script. We've got our location, A Picnic in Heaven, and that is from Walter.
Ooh, I love that.
Walter.
The object is a record, and that's from Matthew.
Okay.
We have a name, a character name, and voice. The character name is Voice, and that's from Rob. Thanks, Rob. Rob's sending us all sorts of...
he's giving us quirky ones. I love this.
We get quirky ones.
So again, that's A Picnic in Heaven with a record, and the character name is Voice.
Okay.
And what is our genre?
Thriller.
I love it.
Thriller.
I love it. Let's turn heaven into a thriller.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you're listening in, come up with a little story.
Yeah, we want to hear it.
I want to hear your picnic heaven thriller.
Yeah. DM us your log lines.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's it for our segments. I know, thank you for filling that genre in there. Maybe it's a sharp record we have over there. Who knows?
Yeah.
What could go wrong?
What could go wrong?
Yeah. Oh, jeez.
Well, I mean, that's it from us on as far as our prompts, but I want to do a little shout out again, Jen. Thank you so much for coming today and really like being so open with us and really giving us so much good context and information and just bearing it all and helping us to learn as well and just really for being here. Thank you so much.
Oh my gosh. No, thank you so much for thinking of me. So fun.
Yeah, of course.
And I hope everyone out there just goes and makes their projects and makes a connection or two and, you know, go to the next Canadian film event that you find and introduce yourself to somebody you don't know, because you just never know where that partnership, that relationship could lead you. So just keep keep telling your stories.
Yeah.
And trust that the platform will find you.
The platform. So Instagram, talk about Instagram again, hey? You can find Jen at JPO_and_co. So JPO_and_co. I still couldn't say it. Two underscores.
JPO and Co. Yeah.
JPO and Co with two underscores. We'll have it linked or at least somewhere
in the show
available
description.
in the show description. You can add county_blooms for following the show. Season 2 coming up this fall. And keep your eyes open for the Canadian Film Festival. I know submissions September 9th or some point in September. And please follow them. Keep an eye. See what interesting, amazing events that Jen helps put out there into the world, panels and cool ways of educating filmmakers and keeping everybody in the community participating. So keep your eyes open for that. Follow.
Yeah. And then you can find us at WTAF Pod on Instagram. Our YouTube is Yas Media Pod, and Yas is spelled JAS as in Justine and Sarah. We're also on Facebook at Yas Media Pod. So again, JAS Media Pod. Or we're also on yasmedia.ca. And if you are getting a kick out of our segments, you can also submit to the Hot Lunch Horror Stories, Worst Direction I've Ever Given or Gotten, our WTAF SOS, which is our advice segment, or our Prompts from a Hat. You can submit to any of those 4 segments, either DM us at our socials, or you can email us at yasmediapodcast@gmail.com. And again, that's jasmediapodcast@gmail.com.
Yes.
Jen gets it.
She does. Yay!
You're the first one to go yas.
Really? Oh my gosh, that's so good.
We say it all the time.
I know. Yeah. Like us, follow us, subscribe. Like Jen, follow, subscribe. Check out what she has to offer. Check out all of her platforms and check out her show coming up. Like, keep your eyes open because she's got amazing stuff on her plate. And also check out filmcoop_inc as well if you want to see what other projects she and the team have going on. Thank you for joining us. Again, we're a film podcast by indie filmmakers for indie filmmakers. Woo. I'm Justine.
I'm Sarah.
Yeah.
I'm Jen Pogue.
Sorry.
No, that was great.
Okay. And I'm Jen. Yeah.
And that's it for today.
Yay. Bye, everyone. Thank you
Bye.
so much. So fun. Yeah. Yes.
Thanks so much for listening to the WTAF We Talk About Film podcast by indie filmmakers for indie filmmakers. If you haven't already, please subscribe to us on Apple or Spotify. You can also subscribe to us on YouTube at Yas Media Pod, and Yas is spelled JAS as in Justine and Sarah. You can also follow us on Instagram at WTAF Pod and on Facebook at Yas Media Pod. We'd love for you to subscribe to our newsletter at yasmedia.ca so you're always in the know.
We'd love to hear from you, so if you feel like submitting to any of our segments, whether it's Worst Direction I've Ever Given or Gotten, WTAF SOS, What the Fact, Magical Movie Moments, Hot Lunch Horror Stories, or Prompts from a Hat, we would love to hear from you. Send us an email at yasmediapodcast@gmail.com or DM us at WTAFpod. Please send us some stuff. We want to hear from you. We love you.
Yes.
JAS Media.